If you're over 60 or even younger, you may be following habits that feel completely normal, even healthy, without realizing they could be silently pushing your body toward the edge. As a doctor who has spent years studying strokes, cardiac arrest, and neurological decline, I've seen it far too often. Patients who seemed active, alert, and disciplined one day suddenly collapse the next. Without warning. They weren't smokers. They didn't eat fast food every night. They even exercised and followed medical advice, but behind their seemingly healthy routines were small, overlooked behaviors that quietly raised the risk of sudden death. I'm talking about habits like staying up too late, overexercising when your body is already fatigued, eating too much salt, taking a shower while feeling dizzy, or going to bed with wet hair. Each of these may seem minor. Some are even considered signs of a hard-working lifestyle. But for your heart, your brain, and your circulatory system, they can be deadly under the wrong conditions. In today's video, we'll break down 5 shocking yet common habits that can increase your risk of stroke, heart attack, or sudden death, especially as you age. More importantly, I'll show you how to change them in simple, realistic ways to stay safe without giving up your routine. Because small adjustments made today might just save your life tomorrow. 1. Staying up late every night. For millions of people, staying up late has become a regular part of life. Whether it's because of work deadlines, late-night Netflix binges, or just scrolling through your phone in bed. Bedtime has been pushed further and further into the night. For people in certain careers like software developers, designers, night shift nurses, or writers, staying up late may even be considered the norm, but the truth is, this habit is quietly putting intense strain on your cardiovascular system, especially as you age. Your body runs on a built-in circadian rhythm, a biological clock that controls everything from hormone production to blood pressure. At night, your blood pressure is meant to dip as your body enters a restful state, but if you stay awake past your natural bedtime, that blood pressure dip doesn't happen. Your sympathetic nervous system remains active, keeping your heart rate elevated and stress hormones like cortisol circulating at levels that should have already dropped. Over time, this chronic overstimulation leads to what's called non-dipping blood pressure, a condition strongly associated with stroke, heart attack, and sudden cardiac death, particularly in older adults. Sleep is not just rest, it's repair. During deep sleep, your heart rate slows, your blood vessels relax, and your body works to clear out metabolic waste from the brain. But when you sleep too late, or get only a few hours of rest, your body never fully enters those critical phases. The result: higher inflammation, elevated blood sugar, poor vascular recovery, and a weakened immune system. I remember a patient named Jonathan, looser art, a retired engineer who had always considered himself healthy. He didn't smoke, exercised regularly, and had no history of heart disease, but he was a chronic night owl, often going to bed around 2 or 3 in the morning and waking up by 7. He believed that as long as he got 4 or 5 hours, he'd be fine. One morning, after pulling another late night to finish a project, he collapsed while brushing his teeth. At the hospital, we confirmed he had suffered a mild stroke. There was no underlying disease, just years of accumulated damage from sleep deprivation and an overtaxed cardiovascular system. The fix isn't complicated, but it does take commitment. Start by setting a consistent bedtime, ideally before 11 o'clock. Dim the lights an hour before sleep to help signal your brain that it's time to wind down. Avoid screens if you can, and don't eat or drink anything heavy right before bed. A warm shower, soft music, or even reading a physical book can help ease your body into a restful state. Remember, your heart and brain are not machines, they need recovery time. Staying up late might feel productive or necessary in the moment, but the long-term cost could be irreversible. If you want to lower your stroke and heart attack risk, protect your cognitive health, and stay independent as you age, one of the most powerful changes you can make is simply to go to bed earlier. 2. Overexercising when your body is already exhausted. Exercise is often hailed as the magic bullet for health, and rightly so. It strengthens the heart, improves circulation, supports mental clarity, and extends longevity. But here's a truth. Many people overlook even something healthy when done at the wrong time, or intensity can turn harmful. Overexercising, especially when your body is already tired or under stress, is one of the most underestimated dangers for adults over 50. It can lead to heart rhythm disturbances, elevated blood pressure spikes, and in extreme cases, sudden cardiac death. Let's be clear, moderate, consistent exercise is essential for heart health, but too much exercise or pushing your body beyond its limits when it's already run down creates a metabolic storm. When you work out while sick, sleep deprived, or recovering from fatigue, your heart must work harder to meet the body's demands. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline surge, blood becomes more viscous, inflammation increases, and if you already have narrowed arteries or high cholesterol, that extra pressure can trigger a heart attack or stroke. This is especially true during high-intensity workouts like long-distance running, aggressive weightlifting, or HIIT classes. Even seemingly light activities like fast walking or climbing stairs can be risky if your body isn't ready. One of my former patients, Mr. Allen, age 61, was an avid walker. He prided himself on hitting 10,000 steps every day, even when he was sick or had barely slept. One winter morning, after recovering from a mild cold, he forced himself to complete his usual routine. Halfway through, he felt short of breath, but kept going. Minutes later, he collapsed on the sidewalk. He had suffered a heart attack caused by cardiac overload during exertion. Thankfully, he survived, but the damage to his heart was permanent. Overexertion doesn't always come from intense workouts. It can also result from exercising without proper rest, skipping warm-ups, or ignoring warning signs like chest tightness, shortness of breath, or lightheadedness. Unfortunately, many people interpret these symptoms as normal signs of aging or think they just need to push through. But pain, fatigue, or irregular heartbeat during or after exercise is never normal and should be evaluated immediately. To protect your heart, start by listening to your body. If you feel unwell, tired, or have recently been sick, reduce your intensity or skip the workout entirely. Aim for balanced movement walking, gentle stretching, yoga, or swimming, especially as you age. Always warm up before and cool down after any physical activity. And avoid exercising in extreme heat or cold. Hydration is key. And so is fueling your body with proper nutrition before and after workouts. Exercise should renew you, not exhaust you. Your heart is strong but not invincible. Respecting its limits, especially during times of stress or illness, isn't weakness. It's wisdom. If you want to live longer, move smarter. Your future self will thank you. 3. Consuming too much salt without realizing the silent damage. Salt is essential to life. It balances fluids, supports nerve function, and helps muscles, including the heart, contract effectively. But like many things, too much of it can turn into a silent threat, especially for older adults. Excessive salt consumption is one of the leading dietary contributors to high blood pressure, a major risk factor for stroke, heart failure, and kidney disease. What's more alarming is that many people consume more salt than they realize. Not through the salt shaker on the table, but hidden in everyday foods. Let's break it down. Salt contains sodium, and the World Health Organization recommends no more than 5 grams of salt, or about 2 grams of sodium per day. But most adults exceed this limit regularly. Processed foods like canned soup, frozen meals, instant noodles, chips, bread, sandwiches, and even breakfast cereals often contain surprising amounts of sodium. Even seemingly healthy foods like pickled vegetables, soy sauce, or bouillon cube are loaded with it. You may feel like you eat clean, but if you regularly use seasoning powders, eat out, or snack on packaged items, your sodium intake may be dangerously high. Here's what happens inside your body. When you eat too much salt, the sodium pulls water into your bloodstream, increasing blood volume. This raises your blood pressure, making your heart work harder to pump. Over time, the increased pressure wears down artery walls, encouraging plaque buildup and weakening the vessels, especially those in the brain. Eventually, a small rupture or blockage can lead to a sudden stroke, with little or no warning. I once treated a retired school teacher named Mrs. Margaret Davis, age 68. She lived alone, cooked most of her meals, and rarely used table salt, but she loved instant noodles, soy sauce, and store-bought stir-fry sauces, things she never thought of as dangerous. She began experiencing mild dizziness and headaches, brushing them off as stress. Then, one evening, while reading, her vision blurred and she collapsed. A CT scan confirmed a hemorrhagic stroke caused by uncontrolled high blood pressure. Her sodium levels were elevated. It wasn't from salty snacks, but from years of unintentional overconsumption through condiments and ready-made meals. So how can you protect yourself? Start reading labels. Choose low sodium or no salt added options whenever possible. Cook with fresh herbs, lemon juice, or vinegar to add flavor without relying on salt. Limit processed foods and restaurant meals. If you do use sauces or seasonings, measure them carefully. Consider tracking your sodium intake for a week. It can be eye-opening. And don't wait for symptoms. High blood pressure is called the silent killer for a reason. It often causes no obvious signs until it's too late. If you're over 50, have your blood pressure checked regularly, and discuss your salt intake with your doctor. Even small reductions in sodium can lower your blood pressure, reduce stroke risk, and ease the workload on your heart. Salt may seem harmless, but in excess, it's a slow-acting trigger. Control it wisely. And you control one of the most preventable risks to your long-term health. 4. Showering while dizzy or with blurred vision, an underestimated stroke trigger. Taking a shower is part of daily hygiene, a moment to relax and refresh. But for middle-aged and older adults, stepping into the shower while experiencing symptoms like dizziness, blurred vision, or fatigue could be far more dangerous than it seems. These sensations are not always just signs of fatigue or getting up too quickly. They could be early warning signs of reduced blood flow to the brain, possibly indicating a transient ischemic attack or the beginning of a stroke. Ignoring them and proceeding with a hot shower may silently set off a deadly cascade inside the body. Let's understand why. When you feel dizzy, lightheaded, or notice temporary vision changes, your brain is signaling that it's not receiving enough oxygen. This can be due to sudden drops in blood pressure, impaired circulation, or the narrowing of blood vessels, conditions common in people with high blood pressure, diabetes, or cardiovascular disease. Now, imagine introducing a hot shower into the mix. Hot water causes blood vessels in the skin to dilate, pulling blood away from vital organs like the heart and brain. If you're already experiencing reduced cerebral blood flow, this shift can further deprive the brain of oxygen, leading to fainting, falling, or worse, a full stroke. I've treated patients who ignored those early symptoms. One was Mr. Ronald Jenkins, a 65-year-old former mechanic with a history of high cholesterol but otherwise good health. One morning, and he felt a little off after waking slight vertigo and some blurred vision. Assuming he just needed a hot shower to shake it off, he stepped into the bathroom. 10 minutes later, his wife found him collapsed, barely breathing, at the hospital. We confirmed a severe ischemic stroke. The combination of early warning signs, heat-induced vascular dilation, and sudden postural changes had triggered a critical drop in brain perfusion. The lesson: take your body's signals seriously. If you feel dizzy, disoriented, or experience visual disturbances, do not proceed to the bathroom alone, especially not for a hot shower. Sit down, drink water, and monitor your symptoms. If they persist for more than a few minutes or get worse, seek medical help immediately. For safety, always ensure your bathroom is well ventilated and has non-slip surfaces. Install handrails if you're over 60 or have any known health risks. Avoid extreme temperature shifts. Lukewarm water is best, and most importantly, never ignore neurological symptoms. No matter how minor they seem, a hot shower may feel like comfort, but in the presence of early stroke symptoms, it can become a hidden danger. Protect your brain by listening to your body. Those few minutes of caution could be the difference between a full recovery and a life-changing emergency. 5. Going to bed with wet hair. A surprisingly dangerous nighttime habit. It may seem harmless, even relaxing, to shower late at night and head to bed with damp hair, especially after a long day. Many people do it out of convenience or habit, believing it's just a minor risk of catching a cold. But for older adults, going to sleep with wet hair can quietly trigger a range of health issues, some of them far more serious than most realize. From scalp infections to cold-induced headaches, and in extreme cases, even contributing to conditions that raise stroke risk during sleep. This nightly routine deserves more caution than it gets. Let's start with the basic physiology. When you go to bed with wet hair, the temperature of your scalp drops. The scalp is highly vascularized, meaning it contains many blood vessels close to the surface. Exposure to cold, especially during sleep when circulation naturally slows, can constrict these vessels, disrupt blood flow, and trigger sudden blood pressure fluctuations. For people with underlying hypertension or heart disease, this can quietly elevate stroke risk. Add in a cold room or poor insulation, and the problem only worsens. Additionally, moisture trapped in the hair and scalp creates a perfect environment for fungal infections. Elderly individuals often have reduced immune responses, making them more vulnerable to scalp inflammation, itching, or even secondary bacterial infections. Repeated exposure to these damp conditions can also exacerbate sinus problems, cause tension-type headaches, and even impact sleep quality due to persistent discomfort. One patient I remember vividly was Miss Gloria Simmons, a 68-year-old retired nurse from Pennsylvania. For years, she showered in the evening, believing it helped her unwind, but she often skipped drying her hair, going to sleep with her head damp. At first, she experienced nothing more than morning grogginess and occasional scalp itching. But over time, she began waking up with splitting headaches and stiff shoulders. Her blood pressure became harder to control, even with medication. One winter morning, she didn't wake up at her usual time. Her daughter found her disoriented and unable to move her right side. Gloria had suffered a minor stroke during the night. Doctors believed the combined effects of nightly cold exposure, undiagnosed hypertension, and disrupted sleep patterns had contributed. The fix is simple but critical. Always dry your hair thoroughly before bed. Use a hairdryer if needed, especially in cooler seasons. If you must shower late at night, consider using warm water and give yourself enough time for your body temperature to normalize before lying down. Wearing a soft, breathable sleep cap may help protect your scalp from cold drafts during winter months. Small habits matter, especially as we age. Going to bed with wet hair may not seem dangerous, but for the aging heart and brain, it introduces stress that's avoidable. It's not about fear. It's about respect for your body, your health, and the quiet signals it sends each day. Listen, adjust, and rest wisely. Your heart will thank you for it. Conclusion: small habits, serious consequences. When we think of health risks, we often picture major events, heart attacks, strokes, or chronic diseases. But the truth is, many of these life-threatening outcomes begin with seemingly harmless daily routines. Staying up late to finish one more task, skipping sleep to meet a deadline, pushing through fatigue for an intense workout, reaching for salty comfort food, or simply going to bed with damp hair. Each of these choices might feel minor, even normal, yet over time, they quietly place strain on the heart, disrupt the nervous system, and increase inflammation throughout the body. For people in midlife and beyond, these small decisions become even more important. As the body ages, it becomes less forgiving. Blood vessels lose flexibility, the heart tires more easily, and the brain becomes more sensitive to changes in blood flow, temperature, and pressure. That's why seemingly simple habits can sometimes lead to sudden, devastating outcomes like a stroke, a cardiac arrest, or a collapse without warning. But the good news is, this awareness creates opportunity. None of these habits are irreversible. By recognizing what your body needs and what it no longer tolerates, well, you can make small adjustments that protect your health for years to come. Go to bed earlier. Warm up before exercise and avoid overexertion. Reduce salt gradually. Dry your hair before sleeping. And most importantly, listen to your body's signals before it's forced to shout for help. Because health isn't just about big choices or medical treatments. It's about consistency, wisdom, and care. Especially when it comes to the quiet routines we repeat each day. Respect those routines, and they will reward you with clarity, energy, and a much stronger chance at a longer, safer life.